One of the main characters of Christmas in the Western world is Santa Claus. We've already talked in the past about how Santa Claus is based on the real character of St. Nicholas of Myra. However, there were some stories we left out, and those are stories worth hearing. The name Santa Claus literally comes from St. Nicholas. Now that isn't a surprise to most people. Often Santa Claus is literally called St. Nick. And we have already introduced the real Santa Claus on this channel, and there's a link in the description to that video if you haven't watched it yet. I recommend it as it sets the scene a little bit for this famous bishop of Myra. In the episode we've already done, however, we left out some of the famous stories that are ancient and well-known and well-loved around the world, and it's worth sharing them here today. If we can tell stories about Santa Claus and reindeer and the North Pole, then I think these stories should be shared around as well. We're going to go straight in on one of the most famous, and this involves St. Nicholas, the peaceful bishop, getting into a physical fight with a heretic at a council. The way the story normally goes when it's spread around online is that at the First Ecumenical Council, St. Nicholas of Myra, the real Santa Claus, was so enraged by the heretic Arius, who had been spreading so much vicious lies around the Christian world, that he got up and punched Arius in the face. This story is very popular every year because there's something funny about the real Santa Claus getting into a physical brawl. But we need to look a little closer at the story, and there are a few things that stand out. One is that, and this is important, is Nicholas did not punch anyone. The story never says he punched anyone, it says he slapped someone. Now that sounds like semantics, I know, but it's not. It's actually a really big deal because a slap, particularly within that culture, was a severe form of correction or of dishonor. That doesn't make it right, and Nicholas was reprimanded for doing it, but it does show that there is something very different going on than a full-on punch, which is physical assault. So in short, the story is actually not St. Nicholas of Myra or Santa Claus punching Arius in the face. It is a story of St. Nicholas of Myra slapping a heretic, whether it's Arius or an Arian heretic. All of this leads to something very important about how we understand this story, because when the story gets spread around every year, it's sort of done gleefully, as if this is how we deal with heretics. Good on St. Nicholas. There are heretics today that should be dealt with like this. This is how the church deals with heretics. And if you're saying this and thinking this, you might be reading the story a little bit wrong, because what you're doing is seeing yourself in Nicholas. Now, of the two characters in this story, which one are we most likely to be? Are we more likely to be one of the holiest men that's ever lived, a man who gave his entire wealth away to the poor and dedicated his whole life to God? Or are we more likely to fall into the trap of going with the popular flow of something wrong, and Arianism was the most popular idea at the time? Are we more likely to fall into the sin of pride and allowing that pride and our ego and our feeling that we know everything to affect the way we see Christ? The story isn't teaching us how to deal with heresy. The story is teaching us that it is far better for us to align ourselves with the truth of the church, to align ourselves with the historical truth. It's important that I look at myself as not following the example of this heretic, but that I pursue true theology, the theology of the church, not my own personal theology, because I would much rather be hugged by Santa Claus than slapped by him. Another story of St. Nicholas involves 3 prisoners. They were convicted of something they had not done, and they were about to be executed. Nicholas senses the truth of this in his heart all of a sudden and runs to the place of execution. He arrives just in time as the axe is raised over the head of the first prisoner, and he grabs the executioner's arm. He then turns to face the governor and stares at him. The governor realizes he cannot hide his sin from this bishop and breaks down and confesses to falsifying the charges to try and hide his own crimes. St. Nicholas is thus still remembered around the world as a saint beloved by the falsely accused and by prisoners. There are several seafaring stories of St. Nicholas of Myra. Myra was a coastal town, and in one story, a ship was making its way there when it got caught in a terrible storm. No one was able to make their way to the helm because of the powerful waves, and no one could right the ship. Everyone was being tossed all over the place, when all of a sudden, a man comes to the helm, gets the ship under control until the sailors are able to get a grip of what's going on and right their way to Myra. When the ship finally arrived at shore and everyone was safe on dry land, they started wondering who it was that had saved the ship, and they soon realized it was none of the crew. And wondering what was going on, one of them sees walking through the streets of Myra the bishop, Bishop Nicholas, and they all recognize him as having been miraculously there on the boat saving their lives in the storm. St. Nicholas was involved in many stories of ships and sailors lost at sea. Because Myra was by the coast, he prayed constantly for the sailors out on the water. So to this day, St. Nicholas is known around the Orthodox world as a saint associated with travel. He's someone we want to travel with because he knows how to travel safely. So you will see icons of St. Nicholas on ships and in boats, in planes, and in cars. There is an icon of St. Nicholas on the International Space Station. It does raise the point, though, that Santa Claus does travel around the entire world in a day. He does it every single day. It's believed by some historians that this association with sailing is actually the reason why the Santa Claus legend has been created in the 19th century. Santa Claus largely came about in New York from Dutch sailors that had settled there, and to Dutch sailors, St. Nicholas, or Sinterklaas, was an important figure. There is another story of St. Nicholas that takes place over 1,000 years after his death. Monks on Mount Athos were rebuilding an old monastery that had fallen into disrepair. Some of the monastic community's fishermen were several miles out at sea, and they cast down their nets which snagged on something on the ocean floor. When they pulled it up, it was a mosaic icon of St. Nicholas. It was 300 years old and had been lost after pirates had stolen it from a monastery those 3 centuries before. It was in perfect condition, except for on the forehead a giant mollusk was resting, and they tried very carefully to pry it off, and it didn't quite work. It went flying off and created a massive crack in Nicholas's forehead, and this crack actually displayed a red discoloration as if it were bleeding. This icon became known as St. Nicholas of the Oyster, or Nicholas the Oyster Man. It was taken to the monastery, where it is seen to this day. And to this day, the monastery operates in memory of St. Nicholas. And what you will find in Greece and across the Orthodox world is that St. Nicholas isn't really seen as the origin of Santa Claus. He's not seen as a mythic jolly character. He is seen a lot more like a family friend. We see him in church every Sunday. We see him in our cars and in our houses. He is someone that we love very much. Nicholas is a popular name in every single Orthodox country because of just how much we love our family friend Nicholas. In the Western world, however, we are inundated with images of Santa Claus. There is a large temptation every year for us to get annoyed at the cute depictions of the chubby Santa Claus and at all the commercialized aspects of Christmas which seem so far away from the true message of Christmas. But perhaps there is a way for us to avoid being hit with the temptation of cynicism and negativity that might creep in on us and see things from a slightly different angle, which is to realize that we live in a heavily commercialized world, and to think that for a short period of the year, rather than Christmas being commercialized, commercialism is actually being Christmasized. For a short period of the year, people are thinking about buying presents for someone other than themselves. People are thinking of others. They are thinking perhaps of tradition. They are thinking maybe of God. For some people, Christmas is not that jolly time, and they don't like the jolly Santa Claus for different reasons to Christians. They dislike Christmas because it hurts, because they're alone, because they're lost in a season that they do not feel connected to. So when we see images of the cute Santa Claus, let's try and let him remind us of St. Nicholas of Myra, a giant of the church, a man who loved good theology, a man who cared for the poor, and who looked after the lost at sea. He reached out to them, he helped them to dry land, and today in the church, as a friend of Jesus Christ, St. Nicholas reminds us to do the same. Thank you very much for watching another episode on St. Nicholas. Remember, this is the second St. Nicholas episode we've done. We love him very much, honestly. He is just the kind of person that when you see an icon of him, you think, there's a friend of mine. And be sure to watch the rest of our Christmas episodes. Today's tea is a Christmas blend of tea. It is, I don't know exactly what's in it. There's black tea, there's gingerbread, there's ginger, there's all these like Christmassy spices, and it tastes like Christmas.